Hi, my name is Cheryl Ehrlich. I am the Financial Reporting Manager here at Free. In this video, I'm going to show you how to review the actual to budget by cost center report step by step. So let's get started. So if you go into your UBW web version, and in the main menu, you can see there's a report section here. You can click on it and go to the division reports. You click on this here. Oops. And then you would go down to the statements, and you would click on the first one, actual to budget by cost center. You can also try to look in the search bar up here. You could put in actual to budget here, and you'll see it'll pop up as well. Just a side note to help you. Now you'll see there's some selection criteria here we'll need to put in. So the first thing would be the cost center. You'd want to put one in here, and I'm going to use Springfield Gardens, which is 10452. And just a side note, if you have multiple programs that you run, you can leave the cost center out and all of them will come up, but I would suggest going one by one because it is a lot of information to review. So like I said, we're going to just use Springfield Gardens here to start. And then once you put the cost center in, next you will have the period between. This is a little bit of different format. As you can see, it has the year first, 2022, and then it has after it the number of months. Now you'll see here the 00, it just simply means it's the beginning of the year. And just so you're aware, too, the periods are preset to be in the current year. So say you're trying to look at the end of the year for December through December, but we've already gone on to the next year. The dates will already be preset, just so you understand that. Of course, you could change them. So we're going to change this to be through June, which would be 2022-06. So once you put the dates in that you want to see the range, you can select the search button here, and all this information will come up. So let's review the columns first. You could see here the first one says report group, and then the next one says account group. That's for basically the finance team to just see how everything is captured in the report. It does help, though, to see like what types of information you're looking at. So you can see this is all the revenue here. And if you scroll down, you can see there's salaries and benefits, and then the other expenses as well. So it's just the way that it's captured on our financial reports at the end of the periods. The next one would be the account. So you could see each account listed here. And the next one would be the cost center that you selected. Like I said, I selected Springfield Gardens, so we can review. And the next one here is actual YTD. That's actual year-to-date amounts. So that's everything that's been recorded in the program so far for the year. And the budget YTD is for the budget year-to-date. So that's what's actually been budgeted for this program through the year. And the last column would be the change actual over budget. And this one is basically just showing the variance between the actual versus the budget. Now, just a little side note again, when you're reviewing the actual and the budget, and if you wanted to review the whole year's budget, you can put the dates up here to switch it to the 12th month. Now, just be careful when you do that, though, because you're going to see the budget for the whole year, but if it's only, say we're in July right now, you're only going to see the actual expenses through July, of course. You're not going to have expenses through December just yet. So just be aware, you can look at the whole year's budget if you want to see what the whole annual budget is. But just remember that whatever month you're in, you're only going to see expenses for that through the year to that month, okay? So if we want to go down and scroll through some of the expenses, it's a good idea just to look and see if you see anything that has a big variance in it. Like here, you have contracted DSPs that's showing a lot, 33,000. However, there's no budget for it. Now, even though you see a large variance, there's probably a reason for it, of course, and we would just need to know and understand so we can explain that. In this case, we do not budget contracted DSPs as the positions are included in the budgeted salaries. But if you scroll down a little further here, we can continue to look. And on the food budget, you can see this is pretty close here, close to budget. And you scroll down some more of the expenses that you normally would want to take a really good look at, like food, household supplies, events and rec, furniture expenses. They're all here for you to be able to review and go through and see if there's any variances. You could try to drill down and see what is going on in the account in case there's some expenses that may not be correct for your program, or if there is, and there is a larger expense, you'd be able to check it and see what it is for. So in case your supervisor comes back and asks what this is for, you're ready to have an answer for it, of course. Let's scroll up again just so I can show you in the revenue here. As you see, there's different types of revenue in here. And now let me back up a step. Revenue, it looks kind of odd when you see the negative numbers and also in red. You would think that's bad. However, in this case, it's really not. It's kind of the silly way, fun way that accounting captures things and records things, but we record revenue, which is income that is earned. That is recorded as a negative and in red. So it's actually good, even though you would think it's not. So you can see in this program, there's SSI, there's Medicaid, clothing allowance, food stamp, a whole bunch of things to review here. And just let's go to SSI for a minute. You can drill down and look in by clicking on the actual amount here. So when we go in, you see it'll give you all the transactions here that make up this account. So if you wanted to go in and check to see the sales orders of each one, like the rental fees and P&A here, you could see by person who they are for, and if those are the correct people in your programming. And in case they aren't, then you can, of course, let somebody know, your supervisor, or let the finance and accounting team know as well, and we can make an adjustment to correct that. This is probably a good time also to explain that as you're looking in here, you'll see there's different transaction codes. That's what this column is for right here. It says TT. That would be transaction type. So in here, since we're in the revenue section, there are sales orders, and that's why it's labeled SI. Now, if I go back, there's a bunch of different types of transactions for different types of, whether it be costs or revenue, or adjustments simply done in the general ledger. So let me go back and show you some other different types of transactions. Okay, so that's revenue, but let's look at some other transactions while we're on the topic here. If you wanted to see, so as we go down here, we can see in some of the expense accounts, if you want to check in here, we can look in food, for example. And here, we're going to see different transactions such as a GL code here, which means that those are adjustments that are made. And sometimes temporary entries for transactions not yet posted to the account to correct things. And there are also IO transactions, and those are invoice transactions that are done by our accounts payable department, whether it be for credit card charges or actual invoices themselves. In here you could see these are credit card charges that are done for food purchases that have been made on the cards. And there are a few other transaction types as well. So I've already mentioned the sales invoice, the GL, which is general ledger adjustments, and the IO, which are for invoices. But there are also sometimes you'll see for RV code, which would be reversals that are done. Again, more adjustments. The reversals are the temporary entries for the transactions not yet posted. You would see in the system. And you'll see if you were happen to be looking into like the salaries accounts, you would see transaction types also labeled as a PP, and that would just simply mean like payroll transactions. Now you can't really drill down on those, but if you go into here, like in the food account, you can still drill down just like it did in the sales orders. You could drill down here. You can see the breakdown in everything that was purchased in this amount, and you could also see here the image, which would be a receipt or invoice. You can also click in here to get a better picture of it, I think. Here we go. And this would show you, well, you'd be able to print out or download to see what the receipt of this order to get the exact details. So just you could see how to drill down into a transaction this way. So let's go back. All right. If you scroll down more, you can see, like I mentioned, some of the other expenses which you'll be more likely to have to review and look into down here, whether it's medical supplies or the food or household. There's a bunch of expenses to go through. Then there's some that are regular operating costs that will be in there as well, which will be like the heat, the electric, utilities, IT expenses. And you'll notice also there's some allocated costs here. And what that means when you see allocated costs, which in the next page I can show you some more here, those costs are basically, whether they're program related or agency related, they are larger expenses that will be spread through, like I said, either the programs, all of the programs would get a piece of it, or it would be through the whole entire agency where everyone would get a piece of it. And these, like I said, are larger expenses such as IT costs and maybe building related costs as well. There are some larger expenses that just everybody needs to get a piece of. So on this page, you can see there are more allocated accounts here. And not only allocated, but there's also some depreciation costs here. Now, depreciation, it means that there is, again, a larger item that's purchased, whether you can see here a building. There's usually vehicles as well. I'm not seeing it here, but there should be a vehicle expense as well. So larger purchases basically that are incurred. For example, say you buy a vehicle this year. It could be around 20, 30, 40,000 for the vehicle. Instead of having to get that expense all in one year, just so you have an understanding of what depreciation costs are. And again, that's a regular operating cost that will be here. You don't need to necessarily worry too much about, just so you understand the background of it. As well as the other expenses here, you can see under the property and equipment grouping, there are vehicle interest, insurances. All of this is part of the operating. So I mention this because it makes up part of the bottom line. As you see when you scroll down on this second page, you'll see this very decent sized number here. And I forgot to mention before, but the expenses, remember I mentioned revenue is in red, so it's a good number, even though it looks like it's a negative bad number. It's really not, but the expenses are in blue, which are a positive number. So down in the bottom here, this shows either your profit or your loss, and that's dependent on whether you brought more money in or you incurred more expenses. Now here, you're seeing 105,000, the bottom here, and change, 105,474. Now, you would think that's a good number, right? Ooh, it's positive, yay. Actually, it's not, because it's saying that we spent 105,000 more than what's actually come in, what we've actually earned in the program. Now, there's, of course, reasons for it, and throughout the year, this is going to fluctuate each month. You'll see differences. And you could see here, this was the budgeted amount. The expectation was to be 31,000 in a loss instead of 105,000. So just so you're aware, even though it looks like a good number, it's unfortunately not. But again, there's probably reasons for that that can be explained. So just be important to review. Okay, I believe that's it. Thank you for taking the time to review this step-by-step video with me. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me or the finance department, and we're always happy to help. Thank you.